Personal finance often gets overlooked in our efforts to make our everyday lives more sustainable. Our financial choices can seem disconnected from our ongoing effort to be more environmentally conscious, and our decisions about who to bank with and how to invest our pensions are either guided by mass advertisements or by long-standing habits. But actually, our financial decisions have more power and weight than you can imagine. Let's start with the basics. Your choice of bank or insurance provider. Banks are commercial organisations, and as such, they're competing for only one thing: you. The more people who choose to use them, the more the bank will grow and develop, and the higher their share price will be. On the flip side though, if everyone decided to abandon a high street bank, its days would be numbered. So the simple act of opening a bank account supports the organisation of your choice, and it's important to base this choice on research. If you want to, you can support a bank that's giving part of its profits back to local communities without having to sacrifice any of the normal protection you expect as a consumer. A simple Google search for ethical bank accounts will help you find the biggest players in this field. But you should be mindful of the Financial Services Compensation Scheme, the FSCS, and ensure the bank is covered by it, as this will ensure your cash is protected from default. Next up, mortgages and savings. Financial decisions become even more important if you have cash savings to deposit. This is because the mainstream commercial banks usually lend savers money to other consumers. The bank will charge borrowers a certain fee, and most of this will be taken by the bankers as pure profit, with a small part passed to the depositor in the form of interest. As a consumer, you don't have any input into how your funds are used and who they are loaned to, but this cycle breaks if you decide to store your money with a sustainability-oriented bank. These banks use deposits to supply certain causes, and you as the consumer can regain some control. The green providers out there can use the money to fund environmentally friendly buildings and renovation projects, thereby supporting sustainable communities. The impact here is a lot bigger than what you can achieve with current accounts. This is because your money can be used to fund some very tangible projects. Now let's look at lending and borrowing. These are two sides of the same coin, and this brings us to green mortgages. There's a clear link to the previous point here, because green mortgages are mostly funded by sustainable savers deposits. But green mortgages are only available to consumers who are looking to buy or build an eco-friendly property, and they often incentivise good behaviour with lower rates and other benefits. Though this sounds fantastic, the overall sustainability impact is limited. Cash deposits are still exposed to interest rates, and green mortgages will only be relevant to those who can buy an eco-property. So while you may be able to achieve some impact, there are simpler and more powerful ways to turn your finances green. The real green impact kicks in when you turn your attention to investments and pensions. To understand why, we need to quickly revisit the basic asset classes of equities and bonds. Bonds are companies that are borrowing to raise funds. In very simple terms, a bond is just an IOU. The company promises to pay you a certain amount of interest regularly as a thank you for lending them money, and at the end of the fixed term, the original borrowing is repaid. Equities are shares, and each share is a unit of ownership. When companies get listed, they split the ownership into a finite number of shares and sell them to the investors to raise funds. The investors become partial owners and receive dividends. Why is this important? Because our stocks and shares ISAs, pensions, and other investments are made up of bonds and shares, and too often we have little to no understanding of what's going on inside them. Investing through an ISA or a pension means supporting companies that you like with your money. These companies then use the raised capital to fund research and development, new product lines, and expansions. But think about what would happen if all the investors decided to collectively deprive certain industries of their money and financial support. The unethical companies would either be pushed to the brink of bankruptcy and collapse, or they'd be forced to change. And this is where the real power of your financial decisions lies. We're living in a world where economic principles are intertwined with social ones, so it's only natural that we should use our personal finances as tools to bring about the change our society needs. The longer the investment horizon, the bigger the impact you can achieve by going green. Switching your pension or long-term investments into a sustainable fund may seem like a small change, but it's likely to be one of the most powerful decisions you can make. And using your capital for good, voting with your money, and driving real change, this is what green finance is all about.